Hello, and welcome to another exceedingly supportive episode of We Only Look Thin. I am one of your hosts, Katherine Weigel. I've lost just about 150 pounds.
Wow.
And with me today is my ultra-supportive husband,
Donald Weigel, the super supportive Donald Weigel, co-host of We Only Look Thin, and I have lost a little over 100 pounds.
That is amazing.
Thank
we got a great gift over the holidays, which is basically a glorified, what is it?
Like a digital photo frame.
Digital photo frame. That's what it's called.
It's a Google Nest Home, which is not the product of the week,
How?
but it used to be just a Google Home or something anyway.
But
now it's got Nest in the title. And
anyway, we get just a cavalcade of photos streaming by, and when we're lucky, we get great before photos of us from the before time where we didn't think we had an issue with secret
as we're
eating.
doing this, there's a photo of me at probably 250. Well, I shouldn't give my exact weight, but
his
about
heaviest
100
diabetic weight.
Yeah, about 100 pounds heavier than I am right now, and it's a nice reminder of how the progress and how far we've come.
Well, and sometimes it's really easy. Must be nice to kind of forget our roots sometimes and forget how far we've come. And please know that we still struggle on this whole weight loss journey. But it's great to see the before because now we can see the now and appreciate how far we've come. So yeah.
We sure do struggle. Let me tell you that.
Speaking of struggling, we're going to go in the Wayback Machine. We're going to skip the Tao and the Pow this week.
Tao!
We got a lot
Tip
to
of the
say.
week to
Tip of the
you,
week
but
to
I'm still
you.
gonna say that.
You felt like you just got a tip. You didn't.
Yeah, you didn't.
Ha, 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 ha. I don't know.
Laughing
They'd
at
be
our
like,
listeners mockingly.
I feel like they gave us a tip. I just don't remember.
Yeah.
So in October of 2004, a little show called The Biggest Loser came on the air.
Yes.
And with the promise of fixing
And it was
people.
not my life story, as our daughter said.
Yeah. But as you all know, we're not going to explain The Biggest Loser. They basically, I'm going to explain it, but very briefly.
We're not going to explain it, but we're going to
But
explain
here's
it
the history
right
of it.
now.
Two teams of very overweight people are pushed to their physical endurance limits and barf everywhere to lose 10 to 20 pounds a week in an ultra contest.
They lock them in a compound, and then personal trainers scream at them while they do things that they're not ready to do physically, and then they make them, I don't know, they don't really talk about what they're making them eat, which is annoying.
Yeah, so that's a certain kind of support that you can get, being yelled at by trim people like Jillian Michaels. And at the beginning, I remember thinking, if only I could go on The Biggest Loser, I would not be 300 pounds, which is what I was back around 2004.
Yeah, if we just had the opportunity to be locked in a compound and have somebody scream at me and do nothing but fitness all day, then I could lose the weight. Then I could get it together.
And the thing is, the old show was filmed about a 30-minute drive from where we live.
Yeah.
A drivable distance. I could sneak onto the compound, dress like one of the contestants. They never know. Jillian Michael just yells at overweight people. That's all I know. But really, I thought, if only I could be on that show, that would be the trick to weight loss. When I was a kid, and I don't think I told you this, but looking at 17 magazine, your Tiger Beats, your Teen Beats, in the back, they would always have little ads for, products that you could buy or whatever. But there was always this little ad for a place in San Diego that was like a fat kid camp.
Ooh.
Like, I don't know if I even told you this. I feel like I'm going to cry talking about it.
Oh, honey.
But I remember wanting, to go to this camp to figure out, oh man, if I could just go there and they could show me how to eat and they could show me, how to work out, then I would be fixed. And I was so self-conscious about it. I never told my parents I wanted to go. I never said anything, but I just remember looking at the ad being like, that's what I'm missing. That's the one thing I need. And as an adult, seeing The Biggest Loser just made me think that's the one thing I need. And seeing the swift results and the amazing progress. And I think we even ran into, do you remember Ryan, the winner of the first?
Yeah.
We ran into him at our 24-hour fitness.
When we were members of a gym,
But he had won, but it was like a year later and he'd put on
We saw him
60,
and he had gained back a lot of the weight.
70 pounds.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking at the time, you were fixed. Like, you hit the finish line. Like, I don't understand how you could gain weight. Like, you had all the resources and all the money. And I really didn't process it. I didn't realize that there was a reason that he had gained.
And part of the reason we're talking about this is that they have just rebooted the show on USA Network. And supposedly they had revamped it. And I hadn't seen it in many, many years, but we watched the first episode last night, and it was very much the same.
Troubling.
Same show, and it was really upsetting to me to watch.
Well, and being on the other side of it, having done mostly mental work around losing weight, seeing, from the other side, these people who are still being screamed at, who are throwing up from overexerting themselves.
They were making them they were making them work out until they literally threw up. And it was, at one point, the one team, somebody was barfing into a bucket, and the other trainer on the other team was like, "See, you're not working hard enough. Look how hard they're working out.
If you're not throwing up, you're not working hard enough." And I wanted to punch Donald's very expensive television, but I didn't.
You leave my TV alone. I'd rather you punched me than the television.
But anyway, I had hoped with the reboot, when they said that they were revamping it, because they got a lot of negative press for many contestants gaining weight, having metabolisms that were ruined, whatever. We're not going to go into the details of that, but there was a lot of backlash about it. And with the promise of a new way to do it, I wanted, mostly as an experiment, just to watch the first episode. And I was really hopeful when the female trainer said that she weighed 300 pounds at one point, and she got her life together, and she had been at goal weight for 5 years, and that it was difficult to keep it there. And I was like, oh my gosh,
and she said that she just started by walking and counting calories, and, and I was like, oh, well, maybe she's going to actually have a sensible approach to this whole thing.
Right, and then flash forward, she's making, people who have never worked out before, what are they called? Weapon belts, or what? No, what is the thing called?
Oh, the ropes, the battle ropes.
Battle ropes. They had people with these giant battle ropes, like wow, wow, wow. Anyway, I'm not.
Product of the week is battle ropes.
Battle ropes. These are like hardcore training.
Yeah, they're like these giant ropes that are affixed to a wall that, you always see people, who are in super shape. They're like swinging them up and down.
Yeah, because in your normal life, you gotta battle rope it.
Flipping giant truck tires and things like that.
Right, if you have to do like double Dutch jump rope for a giant and you need the strength to carry giant ropes, like that's your thing.
The giant's double Dutch ropes.
But anyway, they're pushing people to their physical limits. They're yelling at them to get off the floor. They're making them run a mile and telling them it's mental that they can't run a mile. I have been there. It is not. There is mental work that needs to be done, but you're not going to barf out all of your woes. Anyway, there's a reason we're talking about all of this. Not a super big fan of episode 1. Big fan of the people on the show who are desperate for change.
I'm rooting for them and rooting for them to, to find the answers. But, the show, unfortunately, reinforces this idea. It reinforces several terrible ideas in terms of weight loss. One is that you have to get taken out of your life in order to be able to lose weight, that you have to be taken away from your normal life and from all of your problems and have to focus entirely on it. And, work out just constantly all day long in order to be able to lose weight.
No pain, no gain. Like, the more pain, the more you're making your fat cry and leave.
And then they made them all weigh themselves at the end of the show, and this one woman, they had only been there for a week, and this one woman lost 5 pounds, and they acted like it was a disaster.
Right, and she was afraid of like getting kicked off because she didn't bring it home for her
because
team.
Everyone else had lost like 9 to 15 pounds in 1 week, and it is horrifying. If someone is losing more than about a pound a week, I think they're going too fast. Personally,
and look. This is all to say, and there's actually a reason we're talking about all this. We wanted to talk about The Biggest Loser, but our topic of the week is finding the right support, or if you're not getting the kind of support that you need.
Yeah.
And this show, like Donald said, just perpetuates the pain, the isolation, and the being torn out of your actual life to make progress at an unsustainable and dangerous pace. And we are not advocating for that. And that's what we do. We don't advocate for that.
You know, it's slow and sustainable changes are what worked for us. And, you know, I try to be plan agnostic on this show, meaning that, you know, if you want to do keto, if you want to do Weight Watchers, if you want to go paleo, you know, whatever your plan is, whatever is going to work for you, whatever you can stay on for the rest of your life, I'm good with that. But what I am not good with are these unsustainable, drastic, you know, workout 10 hours a day, having trainers scream at you, and they never talked about food at all on the show.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't think we're going to watch any additional episodes of it. So maybe they'll shock us in episode 3 by working on mindset. But this is just to say that we have been on both sides of it. And to have the trainer literally say, all I did when I was 300 pounds was start walking a little bit and eating at a deficit. And then she's screaming at people, you know, to dump over giant tractor tires. Like, please don't do that. Please don't think that that is the way to be berated, to be yelled at, and to be isolated or made to feel shame is any way to practice self-care. And it is hard enough in our home environments to find the right support, to find a way to share our shame that we have around our weight. Because a huge part of it, I mean, we have been married for 20 some years. I wouldn't tell Dawn what I weighed for the first 18 years of our marriage.
Yeah, she would never let me see her get on a scale and wouldn't tell me what the weight was even. And, you know, we have a really, you know, super close, solid relationship, but that was something that, you know, she didn't want me to face. And I don't think I wanted to tell her what I weighed either.
No, and and I think Donald's got some great words on this. I'm just sort of riffing, you know, kind of like the free form acid jazz
You're like a
version.
beat poet. You're like the beat poet of weight loss.
But we carry so much shame around our weight, which for me is really the source of my secret eating, because there's so much shame that comes from being overweight, for not being able to control yourself, to not setting boundaries with people. And maybe they'll talk about that on The Biggest Loser. But for me, that hiding, shame, and isolation breeds more hiding, shame, and isolation, and wanting to be taken out of your environment. Because, like, I didn't want you to know what I weighed. I wanted to go to a camp where I could lose all the weight and come back fixed. And like, the holistic approach, like, I'd like to see a Biggest Loser where it was like, Sally's going to go to work on Monday and Jim is bringing in bagels. Like, let's see what happens. Like, that's actual life, not being able to flip over tires.
Exactly. And, you know, as soon as you lose all that weight in that situation and you go back to your normal life, they're not training the people to live their normal lives and also fit in exercise and eating well. You know, they're throwing them into this situation and having them lose weight at an unsustainable pace. And, you know, no wonder so many of the contestants gain the weight back when they go back to their regular lives.
Yeah. And the reason that this topic came up, and which we're going to talk about next, of having people in your life who are not supportive of your health goals, we're hopefully going to take a deep dive into why you might not be supportive, what kind of help you might actually want to look for, and ways to get support if you're around people who are not supportive. So we're gonna go in deep there, and frankly, it ties into other parts of our life too. When I was about 18, 19, I had a boyfriend, not Donald.
What?
Sorry. No,
you had a boyfriend before me? This is outrageous.
I think you've said that exact same thing before when I mentioned the same guy.
Well, I'm still outraged by it.
He was terrible. And we lived together, and he believed that I should not go to college. He thought it was a waste of time. He thought it was a waste of money. And he thought that real people, worth their salt, which I don't know why I say that only on this podcast. I don't actually say it in my real life. he thought that if you were a self-starter, you could educate yourself, and that going to college was for weak-minded people.
Yeah, this was a lovely, lovely
total
individual.
Gaslighter. Like, awful. I don't even remember if I've told this story, but I wanted to go to college, but I was ashamed to tell him I wanted to go to college. So I only went to a class on Tuesday nights when he had bowling practice. And on the last night of class, when we had the final, his bowling was canceled because of snow. And so I did not go to my final because I didn't want him to know I was going to college.
Oh, it was heartbreaking.
Which, to think of it now is horrifying. And the reason I am telling you this...
yeah, you were definitely not that person anymore. Like,
no.
you would go to that final and you would not care.
I'm going back 20 years later, 30 years later. But there is so much of ourselves that I think is based on the expectations of others. People saying, you're not the kind of person who should do that, or why can't you just get your health together? Why do you need support? Second guessers who make us feel shame for our weaknesses or for our desires in life. And whether it's getting a college education or trying to lose weight, our relationships carry judgment with them. And sometimes we have spouses or loved ones with the best of intentions who are just completely clueless about how to support us in our most vulnerable area of our life, which is our weight. Like, aside, like, weight and finances are like the most taboo, like, shameful parts of life. And to open yourself up and share your struggles with a partner who isn't supportive can feel so isolating. And luckily, I do not experience that with Donald's, but I have experienced it. And that shame that comes from it, that shame and the guilt, is real, and it leads to more secrecy.
And it leads to, secret eating and binge eating. If you're ashamed to eat, and I've done this. I've done this many, many times in my life. I've been ashamed to eat in front of other people when I weighed a bunch more than I weigh now. And so I would, kind of watch what I ate in front of other people. And then I would get home and secretly just binge, on food to make myself feel better and drown those feelings.
Well, I used to, when I would go on trips, I would bring a 12-pack of Cliff Bars in my suitcase, because whoever I was eating with would undoubtedly be like, I've had 3 lettuce leaves today. I'm so full. And I would say, I am also full and will now go to my room and eat Cliff Bars.
Sometimes I get so busy that I just forget to eat. Like, I would run into those people.
Said me never. Yeah. But we have family members who don't have food issues, who can nibble on something and be good for the rest of the day. So I would eat in secret quite often because I was ashamed of still being hungry. And we still get judgment of people going, nobody could eat all that. Hold my beer. I can eat all that. So we're going to break this episode into a few parts. We're going to talk about why you might be experiencing some lack of support, what comes up in your relationships when you try to make changes to your health, and what you can do to guard yourself against lack of support or create better understanding in your relationships so that you are getting the support that you need.
So why would a loved one, a friend, or, spouse, partner, why would they possibly not support you? Well, one of the reasons is that issues...
I thought you were asking me a question. I was like, funny you should ask, Ed McMahon.
Why would you not support me? That's really what I want to know. What I was going to say is issues of weight loss, food, and exercise can be deeply personal and emotional. And that is why some people may not want to support you. They don't want to be confronted with their own issues. And so they see you trying to, in air quotes, get it together. And then they themselves don't want to be confronted with the fact that they need to get it together.
Yeah. Well, that is definitely true. And I know we talk about Gretchen Rubin and her 4 tendencies framework quite often, which is about outer or how one receives accountability. There are upholders who, if they set their mind to it, can just do it, like Nike.
Yeah.
There are rebels who sort of believe like YOLO, you live once, like let's not change anything.
And if you tell them to do something, even if they think it's a good idea, they'll go a different direction just because you told them to do it.
Right. There are questioners who need really good reasons and support and data.
Those are the finest people on
Donald.
The face of the earth. Oh, wait, that's me. Yeah.
And then there are obligers who need external accountability, someone to kind of cheer them on or to be there for them. And so understanding the kind of people in your life, like my stepmother is an upholder.
Yeah.
She sets her mind to something. She does it. She doesn't need outer accountability. She doesn't need support. You know, if you need to lose weight, just lose weight. That's all you do.
And I would say you're an obliger, right?
I'm an obliger. And I envy my stepmom's ability to be so logical about it and to be able to achieve her goals without external accountability.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of times people who are upholders don't understand why people need support. Like, why would you join Weight Watchers? Just lose weight.
Yeah, like, just do it. Just don't eat as much and exercise more.
You don't need to go
that easy. Like, why would you need a support group for that?
Right. So you live with an upholder who doesn't understand why you struggle. You live with someone who isn't interested in weight loss themselves. Kind of like Don said, you're confronting them with their own, something that they don't want to change about themselves. The other person might be able to eat whatever they want without consequence.
Yeah, there are those rare genetic freaks who eat and eat and eat.
And it's difficult because when you see somebody eating a whole bag of Pringles and
just to be clear, I didn't finish that sentence. They eat and eat and eat, and they don't gain any weight.
Yeah.
I am one of those people that eats and eats and eats, but I actually gain weight when I do it.
Yeah. There are people who think you're fine as you are. You're beautiful. You got a beautiful face.
Yeah.
Let's just YOLO. You don't have to change anything.
Yeah, why?
They've seen you fail before, and they don't understand why you think you should try again. Like, why bother? You've tried before.
Yeah.
Which is what Boyfriend X used to say also.
Yeah.
Super duper guy. I got him. If you want his number.
And look, Catherine and I failed and failed and failed like dozens, if not hundreds of times.
Oh.
And did manage to get it together. So we are proof that, you should keep trying.
Yeah. And then I think the biggest one is, and I think Donald mentioned it, your loved one doesn't understand the depth of your disorder.
Yeah.
They don't understand that you've been, and by you, I mean me, bulimic since middle school, and secret eating and shame eating and eating to self-soothe. Like, there is so much. I don't remember when I told you I was bulimic. All of the above. Like, I honestly have, I could create an amazing memory of us looking at a sunset and me telling you. I have no idea when I told you.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I think it was before we were married, but I'm not sure.
But there is so much secret shame that we have that we don't share, where people are like, oh, I never see you eat anything. Like, oh, it's your thyroid. Oh, I just see you eating salads. Like,
yeah.
I still have an issue with secret eating, and I think Donald does at times too. And I'll mention it to him and he'd be like, you did? I didn't notice. I was like, that's why it's secret.
That's how come it's secret. She's very good at it. And I have, I still, even now, I have issues with secret eating. I have issues with binge eating. Occasionally I'll just start eating and cannot stop. Like, I lose control even now.
On Wednesday.
Even after, maintaining for, a couple of years now. But, we have, not to go too far astray here, but we have implemented these slow, sustainable habits that are now just part of our lives. And I know when that sort of thing happens, I can get back on track.
Well, and also the shame that we feel and the depth of our disorder, not sharing that with our loved one creates an invisible boundary between us. And it can be really hard and vulnerable to share that. And we'll talk about some of the reasons why later. But the more open I have been about my issue with secret eating, like last night I went into the kitchen and I was like, all right, I'm in the kitchen getting water. I'm not secret eating. And, and our daughter's like, you better not be secret eating.
That kitchen is closed. You get out of there.
Which was like, it's kind of a joke, but it also, it's like, it's real and it's happening.
No, and it actually is pretty cool that she, that she does yell at you for.
Yeah, but it's in she understands that I have an issue with it. I don't hide it.
Right.
And I think she has a much better relationship with food than I do.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she would just
better than both of us.
She would just
sure.
eat sugar all day long, but she does it in moderation, so it's fine.
Yeah.
So consider the people in your life. Why might they not be supporting you? So the second question we were going to answer was, what comes up in your relationships when you decide that you want to make a change? Because it doesn't happen on a vacuum on a ranch. It happens in your actual real life. So I think Donald said, it feels like a judgment on the person. If you are saying, I'm going on Weight Watchers, you're reverse saying, you also need to lose weight.
Yeah.
And they feel judged.
And even aside from just losing weight, I know I've run into this a lot. Like, I didn't drink a lot in my early 20s. And well, I still really don't. But, and I would go to places and, you know, people would get upset at me for not having alcohol, right? Because I think that they felt guilty in some way. Like, if everyone's not drinking, then I can't enjoy it as much. And so I think a lot of that has to, you know, it's the same thing. Like, well, I can't go to a restaurant and really enjoy it if you're not going to do the same thing.
Yeah, Gretchen Rubin talks about that, you know, you want to be around people who are having a shared experience, and it feels like a judgment if you're outside of that.
Yeah.
Another thing, and this ties into it, is what you do changes the habits that they have. So if you're used to, you know, ordering a pizza on a Friday night and suddenly you're saying, I'm having a salad, it disrupts the flow of your life together. I know for us, our daughter was visiting her grandparents, and in the past, the before us of 5 years ago, would just go on an eating spree. We would just go from restaurant to restaurant. Like,
oh, yeah.
And just be like, oh, she's gone. Let's go to this restaurant. Let's go to this fancy place. And now that we don't do that, it's like, wow, what do we do? Like,
yeah, what do we do with all our free time if we're not going to just go and restaurant hop all the time? But, you know, I think what Catherine was getting at there is people have a real problem with change, and they can try to either consciously or even unconsciously try and sabotage you so that they don't have to have that change in their life.
Right. There's also, you know, and with us too, you may have failed at other diet attempts so many times that the person just doesn't have faith in you. They don't want to actually invest in your feeling about it because, oh, you know, she'll probably go on it for 6 weeks and then she'll fall off. And like,
it's almost like the story of the boy who cried wolf, you know, like you keep crying wolf and then people stop believing you when there's an actual wolf. And it's a similar effect. You know, people just roll their eyes and go, well, you know, he said it before, she said it before.
Right. Well, and two, there's like, and this happens, I can't remember if it was on Friends, but if someone you love has a sweetheart that you hate and they finally break up, and then you're like, I never liked him, like he was a dirtbag, and then you get back together a week later and now all the dirty laundry is out there. Like, if you commit and are like, oh my gosh, I'm going on keto, this is it, this is what's going to save me. And your significant other's like, oh, great. Like, oh, I'm not going to say anything. Like, they want to remain neutral because you come in hot on something. Yeah. They see you fail and they just don't want to be party to that emotional roller coaster. Cause it can be, you know, really hard when someone's like, all right, that's it. I listened to this video. They said, throw out every single snack in the house. We're going to go work out every morning. I am doing it
this time. This time I really mean it.
Right. With the Eye of the Tiger music playing in the background. And when their lives are upheaved, if I threw out every single thing in the house that our daughter ate, if I suddenly was like, all right, we're getting up for calisthenics at 5 a.m. It's like, okay, you know, settle down. Like, and it can be really disruptive. So that can be part of the reason why you might not be getting the support that you're hoping for. There's also the social impact of that.
Yeah.
Now we can't have fun. You know, like, oh, great, you're on another diet. Now fun is gone. It disrupts your home workflow, like I said. And there's also, which we talked about, the financial impact of a change like that. Whether you're buying grass-fed beef and suddenly buying all this health food, you're paying for a diet plan, you're paying for Weight Watchers.
Weight Watchers meetings or you know, an online support group or something.
Yeah, or Orange Theory or whatever. And we talked about this maybe in the Pennywise Pound Foolish episode, but the way I spend money is important. The way Donald spends money is foolish, and vice versa.
Wait a minute.
No, I'm just saying, like,
no, I know what you meant.
Like, my subscription to Tiger Beat is valid. Because
my subscription to I was trying to think of a very funny Nerd Weekly.
Nerd Weekly is what I was going to say.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Is a waste of money. And
I love Nerd Weekly.
Well, it's not as important as Tiger Beat, obviously.
Does
Nerd Weekly have Ralph Macchio posters? No, it does not.
No.
But think about that in your relationships. How you spend money on your fitness, on your health, on your support groups. Your spouse might not understand that because they don't need that kind of support. Why are you wasting $20 a month on Weight Watchers?
Yeah.
Like, you can do that for free at home. But that spouse might be spending money going to a golf clinic once a month or, investing in RC cars or playing, buying equipment to play Fortnite. But we as couples judge the spending of our spouse. And I have seen it in our relationship and I see it in others' relationships.
Oh, yeah.
And so being really conscious of that bias, that the way I'm spending money is important and the way you're spending money is unimportant. And it actually came up in Wolt Place, our support group, that a husband was non-supportive of someone being in the group. You haven't lost any weight. Like, why are you wasting money on this? And it can get really emotional and really personal and really judgy really quick because you're spending money on this. Like, I want to see the pounds drop. You need to lose, $1 per, pound or whatever. Like, and it can feel really, really attacking because suddenly it's like, oh, you're right. I'm not losing any weight. I'm not going to I've been going to yoga, but do I feel more zen? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so being really aware of that, and hopefully we're going to give you some suggestions soon of how to kind of combat that. But we just want you to we just want you to be aware of all the sort of trappings that go along and the weight that goes along with weight loss. So Donald, what can one do to stave off all of these pitfalls of wanting to take better care of yourself? I'm actually asking you. I'm not going to answer that question.
Well, I
say to you, Donald, Donald, I'll just tell you what you're going to say.
That's what usually happens. I'm glad you asked that question, though. One thing that you can do is simply to lead by example, and just start to make the changes. You don't have to, necessarily announce anything. You don't have to say like, this time I'm doing it.
By royal decree.
Yeah. Or that, I'm going on this plan, or you know what, I'm going to really do this or that.
I just imagine the Imperial Butter guy.
I
always
here's a surprise. I've hired the Imperial Butter guy for our show.
It's all about the butter, everybody.
Because what I spend money on is important, and what she spends money on is not. So hiring the Imperial Butter guy is what I find important. But you don't really have to. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to tell the person. If you know that they're going to be judgy, if you know they're not going to support you, you can just lead by example. You can just start doing some exercise. Just start, cooking some foods that fit better into your plan. Just start eating the way you're going to eat, and you don't have to necessarily announce it, but lead by example.
Well, and two, I think when we do announce our intention, we get I thought you were on a diet.
Yeah.
And even if it's on the diet, actually, this happened to me when I first started losing weight. I started in January, and then in April, we went to go visit some friends, and my friend's mother went to lunch with us, and I had planned for a scoop of vanilla ice cream.
Yeah.
Straight up was like, I'm going to enjoy this. We went to an ice cream parlor. Big surprise, I had a scoop of ice cream. And my friend's mom was like, I thought you were on a diet. Like, shouldn't you girls skip lunch if you're going to have ice cream? And the shame. It's
making me angry just hearing that story.
Shame I felt.
Yeah.
I was like, so I kind of wish I hadn't said anything, because then it was a judgment. Even if it was on plan, you can feel shame when someone is judging you, and it can throw you off because you're like, all right, that's it. I can't do it. It's too much pressure.
Yeah.
And so just ease into it. Don't tell anybody.
Another thing you can do is sort of the opposite, which is to be open and honest about why you're doing it. Like really share why you're doing it. Instead of just saying, I am going to lose 50 pounds, I'm going to lose 75 pounds, whatever it is, really talk about, assuming this is somebody that you actually care about and that actually cares about you, talking about your why, talk about the shame you feel, talk about, how physically you don't feel well, all of those things, can mean something to the other person and help them understand why you're doing it and therefore elicit support from them.
Well, and it is a strange shift, but I announce my secret eating from the mountaintops now with the Imperial Butter Guy. I also hired the Imperial Butter Guy.
The money is important to both of us to spend on that. Yeah, exactly.
Or the Imperial Butter Guy.
This is my new favorite song.
Mine too. So someone recently said, like, wow, you're going to eat that whole thing?
Yeah.
And I actually said, I have issues with secret eating. And if I feel like I'm being shamed by you for eating what I want to eat, I'm going to eat in secret. How does that feel?
Yeah.
And people do not apologize for their opinions. And I spent so many years hiding from other people's opinions that not throwing it back at them, but just being very frank, like, hey, guess what? I used to be bulimic and, or I'm recovering bulimic, and just being super honest about it has been so freeing, because carrying that shame, I don't know why you're overweight, thyroid, being honest about it, I think will change the dialogue. The person who said that to me, who I had to tell them I was secret eating, being able to just say that, it's going to change the way they talk to me about food. And that is important for anyone, because if someone starts judging our daughter for what she's eating and she starts secret eating, that's another generation of problem. And I will not have it.
No.
So all of you know I secret eat. So
it's not really a secret anymore. The secret is out. And another thing to do is be open and honest about how it's a struggle. A lot of people get self-conscious and they get upset if suddenly they feel like you're taking the high road, or you think you're better than them in some way because you're abstaining from all of these treats, or that you're exercising. It can make people feel a lot better and also elicit their support if you are honest that you're struggling, that this is difficult, that it's not easy for you, and then they can better relate in terms of, supporting you.
For sure. And there are people out there, and I think I'm going to go through a list of some shame responses, but there are people out there who are incapable, as much as you love them, are incapable of supporting you the way you need to be supported. For example, loved my grandmother with all of my heart. She's been gone 6 years. I think about her every day. Loved her.
Yeah.
The least supportive person.
Oh, yeah.
Ever. Donald and I were...
when we came home and announced that we were engaged, we had told my parents, we had told Catherine's parents, and they were all super, happy and excited. We told her grandmother, and her grandmother went, ha!
She actually said ha, and then she was like, you're always pretending to be engaged.
You're always walking around with a ring on your finger going, you're engaged.
I don't know what she was talking about. But specifically weight-wise, she would say things like, you're never going to lose enough weight to fit into that.
Yeah.
When we were dating long distance, I was like, I miss Donald. I haven't seen him in 3 months. This was before the internet. So that was a hard 3.
Yeah, that was a hard. There were no Skype calls or anything like that.
And so my grandmother would be like, you miss Donald. She was the one upper. You miss Donald. Your grandfather was in World War II and I didn't see him for 2 years. So I was like, oh, okay, I have no feelings. That's fine. But knowing that she was the wrong person to go to for support in missing Donald or on weight loss, she was incapable of it. Consider the people in your life that you keep going to for words of affirmation or support. That's the 5 love languages episode. They just might not be capable of it. Or you need to be able to tell them what you need from them.
Yeah, you need to ask for support and be specific about it.
Yeah, decide what you need. I had a great lesson from a friend, because I'm generally a fixer, which is why I have a podcast, who was complaining about work, and she was heartfeltly telling me like, oh my gosh, everything's falling apart. And so I launched into, okay, well, what you need to do is this and this and this and this and this. And she stopped me and said, I just need you to hear me, and I just need to tell me you love me.
Yeah, I think I've probably mentioned this before, but one of my, I don't love the movie, but one of my favorite movie moments is from a movie called White Men Can't Jump. And Rosie Perez is in bed with Woody Harrelson.
This is new information. I feel like a whole part of the 90s just opened up to me, and I have no idea what's happening.
I've talked about this with you before.
I don't listen to you.
And they're kind of waking up, and she says, oh, man, I'm thirsty. And so he gets up and gets her a glass of water and comes back to bed. And she says, no, I didn't want you to fix my problem. I just wanted you to say to me, I too have felt thirst. I wanted you to relate to me, and I think a lot of people are like that. You have to be specific about what kind of support you want, that you don't want the person to necessarily fix your problems, or maybe you do. Maybe that is what you want, but ask for the support that you need and be really specific about what it is that you want.
Well, and I think that understanding what you need takes time. We actually read a book called The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. Yeah. It's a really good book, and it does not directly involve weight loss, but everything relates to weight loss eventually.
But she talks a lot about sharing shame and the types of responses that you might get from loved ones that can negatively affect your ability to be authentic and to share honestly. She lists 6 categories, which I don't remember exactly what they are, but there's someone who wants to one-up you, like, you have a problem with eating, I have a problem with eating. So they diminish your need.
You think this is good salsa. You've obviously never been to Ecuador.
Right. So there are a few different shame responses. There's the judgment. If you tell someone like, I really need to do Weight Watchers because I'm feeling lost, who would say, why can't you just get it together? They're the upholder. Just do it. Just run a mile. What's your problem?
Right.
There's the advice giver, which used to be me, which is, what you should do is, like, you say, I'm doing keto, and they say, what you should do is, and then that makes you want to shelter and hide and not share because they're second guessing your plan. There's also the second guesser who says, well, why do you think this is going to work? And then that makes you feel like, oh gosh, maybe they're right. Maybe I shouldn't. There's the one-upper, like I said. Well, I had a friend who lost 100 pounds by just cutting out Coca-Cola. Like, you should do that. Like, what do you mean you're working on a plan? Like, and there's always the person the magical unicorn who's lost weight by changing nothing.
I started eating 1 Big Mac every lunch instead of 2, and the pounds just melted off.
They melted away.
Yeah.
There's the, I came up with this one myself, the bad dog, which is, and I've had this happen before where people go, oh, wow, you're joining Weight Watchers? I'm really glad, because we were talking about like how much you've let yourself go, and like, boy, it's about time you took care.
So
like,
terrible.
That is not a compliment. Like, that is so, when you feel shame, more shame upon shame when you share something is bad. There's the status quo person, the YOLO, like, body positivity, let you be who you are. Like, why fight it? Just, not fighting it got Donald diabetes.
Yeah,
so that
exactly.
was fun. That was fun times. And then there's the banker. Why would you waste money on that? Like, can't you just do it yourself?
Oh.
And the person who second guesses the way you're spending your money or the way you're investing your time. Like, oh, why go to a meeting once a week? Like, don't you have other things to do? Like, and all of that is a judgment call. All of that leads to shame, and recognizing how you do that yourself. Like, I was the fixer, and until I read that book, I didn't realize I was the fixer.
Yeah.
I didn't realize my grandmother was a one-upper.
Yeah.
And it's really like eye-opening, because it was like, that's who she is. That's how she relates to people, is like, my life is worse than yours. But what we might need is the cheerleader.
Yeah.
Not the coach, but the cheerleader who's like, I believe in you.
It's really difficult to do, but, directly asking people and say, look, you know what I really need? I don't need you to fix my problem. I don't need you to give me advice on it. I just want you to cheer me on. I just want you to tell me I can do it, and be really honest about that. And you may be surprised that you can get that kind of support.
Well, and two, I think there are some hard truths about this whole weight loss journey. First, not everyone has the emotional bandwidth to support you. They might have their own things going on in their life. They might envy the fact that you want to join Orange Theory and they can't afford it. Yeah. Everyone has their own thing going on. And not everyone is going to be in a headspace where they can cheer you on, especially if they're not happy with where they are or if they're struggling somehow.
Yeah.
Not everyone knows the right thing to say. And that is a huge issue because there are so many times when big things happen in our lives and we're just not equipped to know how to root for someone or know the right words that you need if you don't tell people what you need.
You know, and I run into situations even now all the time where I don't really know. I have to really think about how I'm going to respond to somebody when they ask me a question. And that's after, you know, over 100 episodes of this show and maintaining for a couple of years and having an online support group and all of that. Sometimes it can be really hard to come up with the right thing to say to somebody.
For sure. And a lot of times now, I just say, like, what do you need?
Yeah.
And that is such a more open way to respond to someone, or thank you for trusting me with that. That's huge.
Yeah.
Like, you told me that you're bulimic. I hear you, and I am grateful that you trusted me. And we say that with our daughter sometimes too. Like, if she shares something personal,
yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much for trusting us with that.
Yeah.
And no judgment call. There's also, like Donald said, the truth is you don't have to tell anyone what you're doing. And it's okay to keep things private and to yourself if that's what you need. So now I think we're going to go on to what to do if you're not getting that support at home. And we've kind of talked about that a little bit, but we have a few more suggestions on what to do.
One more thing to do, and this is, you know, sort of to keep yourself grounded and to keep yourself from going crazy, is remember that it is not your job to change the person. You are not put here to you know, turn them around and make them, you know, some people are just not going to change no matter what you do.
Right. It's like, it's not a mock trial where you're being judged like a forensics team or something of like, yeah, you did it. You convinced me. Like, just keep going.
It is your job to take care of yourself and to turn yourself around. It is not your job to turn them around. And another thing you can do is try and use their negativity to inspire you. You know, if somebody says to you that they don't think that you can do it, or they give you you know, well, that didn't work before, why do you think it's going to work now? You know, use that negativity as well, I'll show them, you know, and then use that to inspire you. And then finally, find support outside of your sphere of friends. You know, whether that's adding friends to your life, whether that's finding them at some sort of supportive class or a place like Weight Watchers or a spin class or a yoga class, or finding an online community. I mean, that was the main reason we started Walt Place. We Only Look Thin Placed, was so that people would have an online place to go to find others who would support them and were there to do nothing except support them.
Well, and I joined, initially when I started, I joined a support community, and I kind of did it on a whim, like, it's a, you know, $1 for the first month. What do I have to lose? Like,
yeah,
I've already lost 60 pounds. Like, I know what I'm doing. It's fine. I hadn't even dealt with my emotional boundaries yet. Like, there was so much I learned from being in a supportive community. So whether it's a Facebook community or a fellowship, or there's also a group called Spark People, which is a weight loss support group. There are so many different ways that you can find support outside of your home, because putting like, Donald doesn't really need as much external accountability as I do. And being in a community has changed my life, even into 2 years of maintenance. Like, I still struggle. I still have issues.
Yeah.
And staying present with people who understand the struggle and being open has really changed my life, because there might be an upholder out there who doesn't need support. They don't need to run with anybody. They don't need to exercise with anybody. They set a goal, they get it done, and they're fixed. I am not that person. I need external accountability. And I am fortunate to have a spouse who supports my endeavors. But it was really weird at first paying for a support community and being like, hey, I'd like to spend $20 a month on this because I value my health. Like, and we're at a point now where I can be open about it, but I was really self-conscious about it at first.
And it's another thing, again, it's super hard to do. It is easy to say. It is harder to do when you're face to face with somebody. But talking about how investing in yourself now will prevent you from having to invest in yourself later when you don't have a choice. Taking care of your health needs now. Either you do it now or you do it when you have no choice and you're forced into it. And it's in the form of a diabetes diagnosis if you're me, or, even worse, something comes along that it's too late for you to do anything about, or something that ends up costing you lots more money in terms of a hospitalization or an ambulance ride, or costs your time away from work, like all of those things, before it's too late.
For sure. And I think, too, the part of this whole process for me has been understanding myself better through podcasts like Happier that talk about the 4 tendencies and the different personality types, understanding the 5 love languages.
Oh, yeah.
And understanding how Donald responds to things. Does he need verbal support? Does he need, acts of service? All of that factors in understanding yourself better, understanding your spouse better, understanding the circumstances of those around you. If your sister-in-law is about to lose her job, she might not be super interested in you investing in weekly yoga practice. And that gets back into like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like knowing that, understanding where other people are, it all matters in the journey because someone might just not be ready to be that support person for you. So finding who can support you now, understanding your boundaries, all of that matters. So in all of this, there's the mindset, there's the weight loss, and there's the boundaries that we create for ourselves and the support network that we have to build because it might not be inherently obvious to those you love what you need. And so being able to find your voice and fill that void and not need to watch The Biggest Loser and just wish that you were zapped out of your actual life and then berated by super fit people, like, it really, really can be done with small, sustainable changes. And I know we say that all the time, but seeing that episode of The Biggest Loser just punctuated with a giant exclamation point and maybe an expletive.
Yeah.
Like, you do not have to throw up into a bucket to see progress. You do not have to be crying and running a mile.
Nor should you,
nor should you. Like, it's horrifying to me. And we can root for these people. We can wish them great success. We can wish that they get to that magic finish line that they want to. But if they don't have the mindset and the boundaries and the understanding of the people around them and the 365 surprises that each of us face every day, the weight is going to come back. It's going to come back for me. It's going to come back for Donald, like Terminator 5.
Yeah, come back with a vengeance.
With a vengeance. And we know ourselves better now. And we want you, if you are listening to this, to feel like you deserve a space in your home, in your family, and to be able to assert your needs with those you love. Because there is nothing more lonely than hiding from your boyfriend who doesn't want you to go to college.
Man.
Like, it is horrifying. If I could build a time machine, 1, go kill Hitler. 2, punch that guy in the face. And then maybe like 3rd, stop off at Disneyland in like 1955.
Yeah.
In that order,
In
probably.
that order. Yeah, exactly. You have your priorities straight.
But feeling like a whole person in your home matters. You should not be a wallflower. You should not be an accent pillow in your own space. You have a voice. We are here to help you find it. And it is your responsibility to those that you love to shine the brightest that you can in your own space.
And I think that just about wraps it up. And if you need support in your life, feel free to reach out to us. We like being cheerleaders, and I think that we're good at it, if I can pat ourselves on the back. You can reach us.
Give me a pat. On the back.
back. You can reach us at weonlylookthin@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, weonlylookthin.com.
Yeah, and if you go to weonlylookthin.com and click on our support group link, you can find out more about Wolt Place, WOLT Place. It is a support group for women on Facebook. No judgment, no shame, just an awesome place to share your struggles and successes. Super duper crazy proud of all of the women in our group right now. Like, I actually told Donald this morning that I wanted to cry because someone had a great January, and I was so proud of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it. Her name was Kim. I'm going to say I'm proud of Kim. There, I said it.
We're so happy for you, Kim, having such a great January, and we know you can keep it up. And if you would like to hang out with Kim in an online forum, you can go to weonlylookthin.com and click on Join the Support Group. If you sign up for a 1-month membership, it comes with a complimentary 3-day trial, so you can check it out, see if you like it. And if you sign up for the 3-month membership, it comes with a free 7-day trial.
Yeah, and maybe we should just change our name to We Only Look Kim, because it's easy to spell. Kim's doing a great job. Other people are also doing a great job. But yeah, let's see. You can email us. We said that. You can find us on the socials.
We didn't say the socials.
Oh,
you can find us socials at We Only Look Thin, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Yeah. And so even after listening to all of this amazing advice, if you're not sure if your sports bra is more supportive or we are more supportive, just remember that Donald and I are an inspiration.
The information that you hear on this podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts are not medical professionals. You should always consult with your doctor, nurse, or other certified health professional before beginning any diet or fitness program.